nobody that tuned in. We're here for Chapter 4, which left on an exciting cliffhanger. So if you're here and you don't know that cliffhanger, go back one video. Chapter 4. The car was almost to her when she felt two strong arms wrap around her waist. Luke pulled her out of the main lane and threw her against the driver's door of her car, slamming the back door shut at the same time.
I mean, that probably hurt.
It's much less graceful than, like, Twilight. He flattened himself against her back, shielding her from the danger with his own body. They were guarded on either side by the SUVs parked there. The driver swerved away, nicking the bumper of her car before barreling out of the parking lot. If only she could have seen his face. Was it Oliver Dietz, the man who was watching her son? Tires squealed as the vehicle roared off down the road. Jenny's heart was pounding inside of her chest so hard that it hurt. LJ, she managed to gasp out. Luke stepped away from her and opened the back door. LJ was sitting in his booster seat, his eyes wide and confused. The buckle was undone. A chill went down her spine. 5 seconds later, and Luke and LJ might have been out there in the parking lot with her. "Thank you," she murmured to Luke, her blood still roaring in her ears. "That was a close one."
This lady really likes to focus on the negative.
Yeah. Luke stared at her, his eyes narrowed as they scanned her face. "Are you hurt? I threw you against the car pretty hard."
Yeah, you did.
No. Terrified, yes, and definitely grateful that you acted so quickly, but I'm not hurt. Did you get a look at the man as he was driving the car? She heard what he didn't ask. Was it Steve? She shook her head and frustrated. No, I was too panicked, and the sun was in my eyes. I couldn't see anything. A new thought struck her. Did we get a look at the car? And by we, I mean mainly you, because I only saw that it was blue. He shrugged. It was blue. 4 doors. Looked like your average small sedan. So, no. She used to tease him that he was only the guy he knew, that she knew that wasn't into cars. Growing up, Amish cars weren't something that you would pay attention to.
I mean, growing up anywhere not interested in cars, you're not going to pay attention to cars.
He looked at her for another second. So do we abandon the milk? She was so tempted to say yes, but then she looked at LJ. No.
He needs that milk.
Let's go get milk and then let's go home. LJ won't understand if we don't get it. How do you explain all that was happening to a 4-year-old?
I mean, you can feel like it's too dangerous to get milk right now. He doesn't seem stupid.
I just feel like any parent would be like, we're not getting milk today, deal with it.
Yeah.
Luke hefted LJ into his arms, pretending the child weighed a ton to make him laugh.
Rather than, like, literally risking his life because you don't want to deal with him cry a little bit.
Then they power walked into the store, both of them constantly scanning the now peaceful parking lot. In the store, she grabbed 2 gallons, because she remembered that Luke liked milk too. Everybody's getting milk today. Then she pushed past the lines at the cashiers and went to the self-checkout area. She would normally avoid those things, but after dealing with technology all day on the job, it was nice to have some human interaction. I'm just randomly preachy over here. But today, she wanted to be done and home and locked in her own space.
It's such a boomer complaint to just slide in.
There's like random little sentences in this book that are so like she knew he was a Christian man. Yeah. She would never normally deal with those self-checkout things. They were back in her car in under 10 minutes and on their way home. When they pulled in, she realized that home no longer provided the safe feeling that she used to feel before she left the store.
Yeah, wouldn't, huh?
You know, she commented in a low voice to Luke, when I woke up this morning, everything was normal. Now I have people trying to kill me. My home has been invaded, and my husband has returned from the dead with no memory. I think that has to set a record for weird days. He didn't answer for a moment. I don't know what to say to that. I'm sorry that I left you alone, but it wasn't something that I had planned. She opened her mouth, ready to protest that she hadn't meant for him to feel bad, but he raised a hand, and she quieted her mouth to listen. Silent. I don't remember the time we spent together, but I am getting flashes. Insights. Maybe memories of feelings rather than actual events. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll remember more, but maybe not. But I do want you to know that I never would have left you alone intentionally. I know that, Luke. That wasn't the type of person you were. You weren't a great one for planning, but you were never negligent. You were always responsible. She cleared her throat. Let's go in and get out of the open. anything to change the subject. When they arrived at her apartment door, she paused again uneasily. The last time I came home, someone had invaded it. Luke gently nudged her aside. She stepped back. Move, woman! LJ at her side while he checked the lock. When it wouldn't budge, he held out his hand. Key, he said. She nodded and dropped the key into his waiting palm. Briefly, the pads of his fingers tapped his palm. The warmth singeing to them was familiar, but she ignored it. Now was not the time. Touching palms. He slowly unlocked the door, trying to be as quiet as possible. They entered the living room together. Luke held a finger to his lips and pointed to the wall next to the door. Jenny nodded in understanding, then moved herself and LJ so that they were both standing with their backs against the wall. She watched, her gut aching with anxiety as Luke walked with whisper-soft steps to the kitchen. He exited a few moments later, then disappeared down the hall. She strained her ears and heard the bathroom door open. The bedroom doors were already wide open. LJ started to speak, but quickly she shushed him, then squatted down to his level. We have to be quiet until Daddy comes back, she whispered. Is Daddy on a mission, Mama? Yes, something like that. If he finishes his mission, can we have ice cream? His blue eyes were hopeful. Her heart melted. Even while she wanted to cry, her son was so innocent. He had no idea of the evil that was entering his world.
I think he has a pretty fucking good idea. I think he's just had a bad day and wants ice cream.
He's 4. She wanted to keep him ignorant of it as long as she could, if that was even possible. She was also impressed with his burgeoning bartering skills. If you don't talk until he returns, then yes. His sparkling eyes told her he wouldn't say a word until Luke returned. Nearly 20 seconds later, Luke walked back into the room, his smile and nod letting her know that all was clear. Only then did the knot in her belly melt. She let out the breath she had been holding in a long whoosh. LJ tugged at her arm. When she looked down at him, he pointed at Luke. Then he jabbed his finger at his mouth. Jenny let out a laugh, her first real laugh of the day. Luke raised his eyebrows. What did I miss? She bent to kiss the top of LJ's curly hair. Your son was very good and quiet while you were on your mission to check out the apartment, so he gets ice cream as a reward. Luke's eyes went soft at the words, your son. She fussed with LJ's hair a moment longer, pretending not to notice until she heard Luke clear his throat. Chocolate chip cookie dough? He asked, his eyes lit up, reminding her of LJ. Oh, that was Luke asking.
Yeah.
Chocolate chip cookie dough?
None for you.
She snorted. What do you think? Is there any other kind? Jesus Christ.
This is, interesting.
Yay! LJ raced to the kitchen. She could hear him climbing into his booster seat at the table. She and Luke followed after him, both of them more relaxed than they had been 5 minutes earlier. She scooped out the ice cream into 3 bowls. The hard stuff, Mama! I don't know. She reached into the cupboard and grabbed the homemade chocolate shell topping. I see. She shook it up and poured it.
Where did you learn that from?
Sometimes Mama mixes whiskey in her ice cream. She reached into the cupboard and grabbed the homemade chocolate shell topping. She shook it up and poured a generous amount on LJ's ice cream. He tapped it with his spoon. You have to give it a few more seconds, honey. It needs time to harden. When he tapped again, his spoon thunked against the hard coating. Oh, yay, it's ready. Hey, I want some too. Luke held out his bowl. Jenny rolled her eyes, but compiled and poured the chocolate goodness on his treat. I don't like how any of this is written.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I'd be like, ew. Don't get any of my son's ice cream or his chocolate coating.
I don't know why, it's just all weird.
Yeah, it makes me very unhappy.
I don't even have a good reason for it. I just don't like it.
It's just too kiddie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like him acting the same as his son when he's a grown fucking man.
But also, like, she makes it weird.
Yeah.
By, like, rolling her eyes and laughing, and it's like, I mean, adults also like chocolate sauce.
She's, like, treating him like a baby, and, like, he's acting like a baby, and it's weird.
It's, all of it's strange.
It's really uncomfortable.
And it takes it's like, this isn't like the rest of the book. Maybe she was, I don't know.
Maybe they're just stressed.
And Jenny rolled her eyes, but complied, and poured the chocolate goodness on his treat. See, I don't like that sentence.
No.
Then she shrugged and added some to her own bowl. She usually tried to watch what she ate, but she deserved something special after the day she had. Luke and LJ both bit into their ice cream. LJ looked at his father and said, "Yum." "Yeah, it is yum," he replied. I hate this.
Can we get back to, like, the murder?
Can we get back to whatever? Like, ice cream does something to this author. Ginny snickered but refrained from commenting. A few minutes later, she collected the bowls and washed them. LJ took Luke to show him his room and his toys. Ginny looked at her phone and the light was blinking. She pushed play to listen to the message. "Ginny, it's Randy." I don't remember Randy's voice.
Randy's a woman.
Oh, right. "Hey, when you get this message, call me, please. It's important." "Hey, Ginny." "Pick up my smokes." She frowned, as you would. When she talked with Randy earlier that day, Randy had been her normal chatty self. Her voice on the answering machine sounded tense. Ginny picked up her phone and called Randy.
Probably a name.
It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. It's me, Ginny. I'll be available all evening. Call me back." She hung up, still frowning, wondering what Randy could have wanted. A voice in her mind whispered that maybe it had something to do with Steve.
Of course it had something to do with Steve.
But that was ridiculous. Randy had never even met Steve, and what she did know about him from Ginny was vague. The only person Ginny had ever shared anything with was Luke.
Did she already forget about the wall of crazy they found?
Yeah. Not even Aiden knew everything. He knew that Steve had attacked her when she was 11, but she never told him that her stepfather had raped her from when she was 15. Well, there goes, and we're shadow banned. Or that Luke had stopped him from killing her. "Are you okay?" She dropped her phone on the counter, the noise echoing in the quiet kitchen. She hadn't heard Luke approach. "Do you walk through the walls?" "Sorry." She plugged her phone into the charger, hands shaking. Just thinking, "My friend Randy called. I tried to call her back, but she didn't answer." She was babbling and she knew it. Anything to hide her nervous reaction.
I mean, she wasn't babbling.
Yeah, that was...
Just, like, explaining what she was doing.
It was one singular sentence.
Yeah.
He wasn't fooled. He gently took her hand where it was fumbling with the cord. "It's all right. I will sleep here tonight on the couch. If anyone tries to break in, I will stop them."
I mean, you don't know that
But
that's a comfort.
the Amish don't believe in violence, not even to protect their families. Is that true?
I don't feel like that's true.
I don't have enough knowledge to say that's not true, and I feel like
that
this
is-
author knows more.
I feel like that's wrong.
I don't know, we'll Google it after this. A dark shadow passed over his face. Was he regretting joining the church? The shadow lifted. "I won't shoot a gun, I won't start a fight, but I will place myself between you and LJ and anyone that tries to hurt you." It sounded like a promise. Warmth drizzled down her spine at his words. Stop it! Then her guard went up.
Gross, don't drizzle.
She knew he meant well, but regardless of whether or not he remembered it, he had made his choice, and he had joined the Amish church. That wasn't something he could undo. No matter how much he might want to stay and protect them, sooner or later he would have to leave them.
I mean, you can just leave the Amish.
You just
choose
leave.
Never to go back again.
And no English woman, not even the mother of his son, could go with him. He didn't like the paleness in her cheeks, nor the frantic edge in her voice. She wouldn't meet his gaze. What was going through her mind? He put a finger to her chin to raise her eyes to his. In the back of his mind, he was shocked at his boldness to touch a strange woman. But this was no stranger. Even if his memory had never returned, this woman had married him and given him a son. He had responsibility to them, though he couldn't see any way for them to ever be a family again. Ginny. Her eyes finally shot to his. He ignored the sizzle he felt at the connection. He searched her face for some clue to how she was really coping with all that had happened. His gut told him that she was the one who tended to close herself off when bad things occurred. With her past, it would make sense that she would have trouble trusting anyone, even him. Perhaps even, especially him.
Yeah, I mean, you disappeared, bro.
His heart ached at the thought, but he shoved it aside. It was something he couldn't change. "I'm fine, really." She responded to his unspoken question. It's been a really hard day, and I don't like not having a plan. I like to know what to expect." "You've always hated surprises," he replied, then stopped. Wait a second. How did he know that? Do you remember? He shook his head, sorry to see the hope draining from her lovely face.
Yeah, you gotta just shut your mouth. Bro.
She really was a beautiful woman. Stop it, he cautioned himself. You don't have the right to notice that. It's not that I remembered it. It's an impression that I had. I didn't realize I knew that about you until I said it. When she turned and walked away, he wanted to call her back, but had no idea on what he planned to say. It was just a hopeless situation. No, not hopeless. Gort was still in control, though it was difficult to see that the chaos swirling around them. His plan for them was, if only Luke could see the map that Gort had intended for them to follow. Sighing, Luke prowled the perimeter of the living room, reading the spines of books in the bookshelf and the labels of the DVDs, many of which seemed a little familiar to them. Had they watched any of these movies together? In his mind, he imagined snuggling with Ginny on the couch, laughing over a movie, possibly eating popcorn. It felt right, like they'd done exactly that. Had. It was in the past. He had no reason to long for it now. His path had veered from one he might have trod together with his beautiful brunette, giggling softly with LJ. He tilted his head for a moment, rubbing his chest as the sound caught at him with the force of a fist striking him. Lord, guide me. Give me the strength to protect them and to do your will, whether I want to do that or not. Moving to the window, he shoved the curtains out of the way and peered down at the street below. The view was peaceful. Trees covered with snow, the lawn a white blanket stretching out to the street. In the waning light, the snow almost seemed to glow. A snowplow drove past, its large plow scraping the road, creating a foot-tall barrier of snow along the side of the road. Was someone out there now, watching them, planning another ambush? It was highly unlikely that whoever was behind the attacks was done. After all, there had been 2 attempts on Ginny's life today. They should have called the police after this second attempt. It was a foreign thought to him. But Ginny wasn't Amish. She should have thought of it. Unless she didn't see the point. They couldn't identify the driver or the car. Would going to the police have changed things? He let the curtains fall closed again. The rest of the afternoon passed in tense silence. He tried to start up several conversations with Ginny. I keep forgetting it's still daytime. But
it's like 4 o'clock. The sun probably hasn't even set yet.
Dinner was a simple affair of grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup. LJ scrunched up his face when his mother poured a small amount of soup in his bowl, then grinned in delight when she placed a dill pickle spear on the plate next to his sandwich. Luke shuddered, then glanced up, surprised when a chuckle gurgled out of Ginny. What?
A chuckle gurgled.
A chuckle gurgled. What? You never did like pickles. They're unnatural. A belly laugh erupted from her. Oh, my. You used to cringe when I would eat them straight out of the jar. Now I want pickles. Sometimes I do it just to see your reaction. You are a cruel woman. He fought the urge to grin, attempting to school his face into a stern expression. It probably looked ridiculous. She winked, then dropped her eyes. No doubt she recalled the seriousness of their situation. Jesus. After dinner,
Can we just be happy?
Ginny rose to give LJ his bath and put him to bed. I'll take care of the dishes, Luke offered. She raised an eyebrow. You used to avoid doing dishes like the plague. He grimaced. I don't like doing dishes, is true. But it's a job that has to be done, ain't that so? Her nose wrinkled up. You even sound Amish now. You know, when we met, you went out of your way to sound American. English, he corrected. Still, he frowned. I remember feeling rebellious as a teenager. I don't anymore. Obviously. He couldn't tell if she was being critical or stating a fact. Come on, LJ, bath time. Yippee! The 4-year-old hopped down from his seat. With bubbles? With bubbles. Luke found himself smiling at his son's exuberance. The smile faded as he contemplated the situation while they were doing the dishes. How would he protect them?
Like he was so happy and then he thought about it.
He knew what Steve Curtis looked like, but by now it was clear that Steve had other people coming after Ginny. It could be anyone they passed on the street. It could even be people that she knew and she trusted. Although she didn't seem like a person who trusted that many people, her mother may have been partly to blame for that. It was hard to imagine a mother abandoning her child the way that Ginny's parents had. The horrible things she endured while in the foster care system couldn't be helped. And then Steve had attacked her. His lips tightened at the thought of the young girl she had once been suffering with no one to listen. An image of Ginny flashed in his mind, hair in a disheveled ponytail, tears tracking down a dirty, bruised face. He blinked and the image was gone. Was that a memory? His heart hurt for that girl. And he marveled at the strong woman she'd grown into. Ginny might have suffered, but she was certainly no victim. She raised a smart and happy son, a son who had no idea that the world could be so dangerous. His son. Donkey got for keeping them safe. Help me protect them. 30 minutes later, a clean LJ rushed down the hall to hug him goodnight. Night, Daddy, I'm going to sleep in Mama's room tonight. I don't want to let him out of my sight, Ginny explained. Is that silly? I think it's smart, Luke said, after the day you two have had. She tossed him a quick, weary smile before leading LJ off to bed. She was back 15 minutes later, her arms stacked with bedding for him. I have extra blankets in the hall closet if you get cold. Donkey. He took the linens from her, almost flinching when their fingers touched. The tingle he felt at the touch was not good. Definitely not something he's supposed to enjoy. He couldn't help it, though. I mean, she is my wife, even if I don't remember her. But the thought brought no comfort. He set about putting the sheet on the couch, leaving his boots and his hat near the door. He stretched out, determined to sleep. An hour later, he was still wide awake, listening to the cars drive up and down the road. Was Steve in one of those cars? At about 1 in the morning, he woke with a shout. The dream about being caught on fire, trying to get to Ginny and LJ fading. Tossing the blanket aside, he jumped up from the couch and went to look out the window to check for any perils. He couldn't see anything through the thick haze of fresh falling snow. The window shook with the force of the wind. He laid one hand flat against the pane. It was ice cold, and his breath misted the glass. Uneasily, he walked down the hall. He could hear LJ's light snore coming from Ginny's room. A second later, he smiled when he heard a soft noise inside. He heard Ginny sneeze in her sleep. She had asthma, as he recalled. Frustrated, he willed himself to recall more, but nothing came. Finally, he returned to the couch. It was going to be a long night. That is the end of chapter 4 and the end of my voice. Goodbye.